Mr. Chase.
Good evening, Mayor Wayne and council members. My name is Kevin Chase. I've been a resident here in San Bruno for 13 years now. I've had the great opportunity, as has Mr. Biasotti, to sit on the Planning Commission. I was appointed in 2000. During that time, I learned a great deal about the city, how to deal with difficult situations where we, for example, don't really have a view ordinance, but it's very important to the residents that, their homes or views are not, impaired by some, monster home. Ways to deal with that, ways to actually one-on-one with the people and try and resolve their differences before it becomes, something that is out of control and cannot be repaired. I feel that one of my strengths is certainly the ability to listen, to learn, and to bring a sense of common sense, if you will. There's always the book, things that you have to go by, but then there's also the areas in which, common sense needs to prevail as well. I didn't write anything down, and it's definitely different being on this side of the Diaz than it is at 7 o'clock.
Sit up here and talk to me.
Yeah, it's okay. I've been a volunteer on the clean sweep. I've volunteered for AYSO coaching. I've done a lot of things in the community that I totally enjoy doing, and to me that's an important part. You need to enjoy what you're doing if you're going to go into it wholeheartedly. When I first was appointed planning commissioner, I quite honestly didn't know exactly what I was getting into, and it was somewhat of an eye-opener, but it's been a great experience, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Having said that, with this opportunity here that has arisen, and again, as city manager has stated, doesn't happen very often, I felt at this time I would be a very good candidate for the vacant position, and understanding the commitment that is required, I felt that I could certainly fulfill that and would look forward to, with a great amount of gusto, to do that. I think
Great. Questions for Mr. Chase? Ken?
Go ahead. Okay. Kevin, let me just say this, and I meant to say it with Rick. Both of your service on Rick and yourself on the Planning Commission has been exceptional, and I compliment you on your years as both of your years of service on the Planning Commission. I've seen you both in action and followed you, so it'll be tough to replace you if you do still get selected. And Kevin, in your application, one, you call yourself a community activist, and if you might comment on that, but also you state that you like to create opportunities for employment and housing. I believe I think we're doing okay with housing, and and you're familiar with things through the Planning Commission on what we're doing with housing. What are your ideas on creating opportunities in employment in this town?
Well, yeah, I happen to sit on the subcommittee for the downtown corridor, and I see a great opportunity down there, as does I'm sure all the other members and general public who sit on that committee. We have an opportunity to expand down there, to create jobs, to create some housing, if you will, as well. There's been several ideas that have been tossed around at our meetings. I think, for one, it would be a great asset to the city, and if we can move forward with that, although we all understand that right now in the economic times it's a little bit difficult, but certainly that'll change. I think there's going to be great opportunities down there for employment, for small businesses, for shop owners, whatever. I mean, I believe that it's there. Might not be tomorrow, might not be middle of next year, but it will turn. And I think we need to be there at the forefront and grab those opportunities and grab those developers and those potential employers and bring them into our city instead of letting them, you know, drift away. I mean, you drive down the El Camino, and quite honestly, it's kind of scary. Look at all the businesses that are closed and boarded up or whatever, and you know, it's difficult times. But I'm sure we'll get through it.
Irene?
Oh, thank you. The role of a planning commission is one thing, and the role of a city council person is another. How do you see the role of a city council person? What do you see as our job?
Basically, as a steward, if you will, for the citizens of San Bruno. You have a great responsibility to represent them on a daily basis in everything you do, everything you say, all your actions. You know, you're constantly under the microscope, if you will. Before I had the current job that I have now, I was in a somewhat of a similar situation, although it wasn't as a council member, it was as a union representative. And I understand that everything that you say, people will try and either twist it or, you know, use it to their advantage. So you need to be very careful in the way in which you answer questions or, you know, present a plan. You don't want to present something that you know you can't deliver just, you know, to get off the hot seat. It doesn't work. It's a great responsibility and a great burden, but it's also a great opportunity for somebody to represent their city and their fellow residents and be very proud of that, and I would be.
Thank you.
Question that was asked the last gentleman, which I'd like to ask of you, is your view or thoughts on consolidation of services, whether it's fire, police, or others, with the neighboring jurisdictions?
You know, I went through consolidation, if you will, in a previous career, and it's not always a pleasant transition. Sometimes it is necessary, and it's very difficult to convince the members or the people of that particular group, whether it's fire, police, or whomever it may be, that it's in their best interest. Quite honestly, not having seen any of the financial papers or whatever, and how that would all work out if it actually is necessary, I would prefer that it was kept separate. However, having said that, there are, circumstances, and again, in these economic times where, you're driven to do the right thing, to, continue the public services that the residents need and expect, and yet be able to do it in such a financial way that, you're not going to go bankrupt or, So it's, that's a very good question. I would certainly like to see what the options are, to give you a definitive answer, but basically, I do like to keep things separate if it's at all possible, and keep their own autonomy.
Thank you.
And Kevin, you feel you'd be able to make the time commitment?
Yes, Mayor Wayne, I do believe I could. I do work in Half Moon Bay, and sometimes, like tonight, coming over here and trying to jump in the shower and get down, I cut it down to the wire quite often, to be honest with you, as most people probably know. But as I also know, I do make all the meetings, and along with Commissioner Biassadi, I think we've sat on, I don't know how many of the ARC reviews, and I had a great time doing it as well. The commitment, again, it is not something that is foreign to me. It's not something that I would shy away from. I would, just look at it as a great opportunity for myself to, serve the city that I truly love too. I mean, it's a great place to live. It's got problems, as every other city does. It's not perfect. We're not, living in Camelot, but it's a lot better than most.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, Kevin, 14 years ago when I came was appointed on the city council, I made some tough decisions, controversial decisions, but it seemed that the most overwhelming thing that I had to deal with, the issues I had to deal with, was getting right into the budget. And it's kind of daunting when the first budget you get, when you're not expecting it, you get handed a 4-inch thick binder, and now we're 2 binders. Talk about, what your knowledge of the budget is and the running of this city, and based on what the Vice Mayor asked you, as far as consolidation, tell me if you were faced with staff saying absolutely no, we're against consolidation, but then big chunk of money to save, and so how would you deal with that dilemma, saving money versus the morale of your city employees? And tell me, let me know what you know about the budget right now.
First off, dollars and cents, I don't really know a whole lot about what the budget is. Dollars and figures. However, in the past, I have, dealt with budgets, and I currently deal with one at work as well, but nothing as daunting or as large as I'm sure the cities. I have a vague, knowledge of it, but really no specifics, Councilman Albera, but, numbers are numbers, and whether they have a lot of zeros behind them or just, a few, it's still a matter of figuring it out, how much is coming in, how much is going out, and, where you need to tighten the belt, if you will. That's basically the part of the budget that I suppose I know about. It's pretty vague, as I said, but it's a learning curve. And if I were to get, if I was fortunate enough to be appointed, the first thing I would do, if faced with the 2 binders versus when you first had 1, would certainly be to come to you and ask you for your help, and your advice, as the other council members as well. Hey, when you're the new guy on the block, you need to ask questions. You can't be afraid to ask questions. The only stupid question is the one that isn't asked. So, certainly I would not be afraid to ask questions. I know when I first came on the Planning Commission, Commissioner Mary, she was so helpful to me. Anything you need, and I took that, and asked her several questions, a bunch. I still do. So every day is a learning day, and everything's a little bit different. But I would fully expect that the way in which you guys have gone, the council has gone currently and in the past, it's a direction that I think is great. And I think obviously you 4 have been on for a while, and you have probably a very good handle on it. And whoever is, fortunate enough to get appointed would certainly have to look for you guys for some guidance on that.
I'm not going to let you get away with it. Make the tough decision. If you're faced with a tough decision between what you've heard from staff, and what is in your heart a good saving measure for the community, how do you deal with that?
I'd have to go if it's a legitimate good savings for the community. As unpopular as that might be for, the rank and file of, whatever's being consolidated, you have to do the right thing, by all the citizens, not just, a few. So it would probably be a very tough decision, but based on what you're telling me, I would have to go along with the consolidation. I'm sure you'd probably catch a lot of heat for it, but, that's what you have to do.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Chase? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.